Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of Warhammer the Golden Age. This is a series of Warhammer Fantasy battle reports, and this one is battle report number 54. It is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between myself as well as my friend Brother Grimm. Brother Grimming is bringing Waaaghpokeylipz Now, a 3,000 point Orcs and Goblins army, and I'm bringing the Garden of Nurgle, my 3,000 point Legion of Nurgle army. So I'm pretty excited to play this one. My friend Brother Grimm is bringing Grimgor Ironhide, the Incarnate of Beasts, the special character from the End Times rules. So I'm really excited to see exactly how that goes. And plus, I've always liked playing against Orcs and Goblins. They're just a lot of fun to play against. And my friend Brother Grimm is a really good guy. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what both of the armies are bringing, go and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. If you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Alright, so let's talk about the scenario for this one. This one is Battle Line. It is your traditional battle of Warhammer that there is out there. Standard deployment, standard victory conditions. You know it, you love it, so do my friends and I. So that's the game we're playing today. So with the scenario rules, let's go talk about the battle plan real quick. As you can see, we're playing on a 4x6 table. I'm deployed on the far side of the table, while my friend Brother Grimm is deployed on the near side of the table. And as you can see, there's a whole huge tidal wave of green flesh that is about to charge across that battlefield and bring it to me. So this one's kind of interesting. So as you can see, my friend Brother Grimm has kind of gone with a weak center, strong flank style deployment. He has his orc units on either flank of his army, with his giant on his left-hand side, and he's got his goblins right there in the middle. I played against this list before, so I know those units are carrying fanatics. It looks like what he's planning on doing is sending his goblins forward to suppress my main lines and then flank me with his horde units and destroy me that way in the center, which is a pretty good tactic because Orcs and Goblin armies are really good when they can fully envelop your own army and destroy you that way. And so what my plan is pretty much to do is to do exactly that, attack his flanks. As you can see, I have my Nurglings deployed right in the center of the battlefield. The reason why I scout them that way is so that way they can move forward towards those goblins and pop those fanatics. Hopefully the fanatics will just destroy themselves in the center of the battlefield, and I really don't have to worry about them too much. Yeah, my Nurglings will die, but then again, that's what they're designed to do, so no loss there. At the same time, I plan on defending my left-hand flank with my infantry units, using the Tallyman to hold the center, as well as my Dustman, Waaaghpokeylipz and my Demon Prince Haster the King in Yellow to defend my left-hand flank. At the same time, attack his right-hand flank with my 2 units of Plague Drones. And that's pretty much what my plan is that way. Hopefully what I can do is break his flanks, and then I can finish off his center, and then be done with it. And that pretty much makes up my deployment on this one. So let's go and talk about the deployment real quick. On the left-hand side, that is Undead Fred and the Loon. That is his giant. Right next to them is the Immortals. It's a huge unit of 39 black orcs, kitted out with the Immortals upgrade as well. And that unit is also Grimgor Ironhide. That is the Incarnate of Beasts. He's the special character for the End Times rules. And that makes up his huge left-hand flank for his army. In the center lines of his army, he has them those Sneaky Gets on the left-hand side, the Ludas in the center, as well as the Backstabbers in the right-hand flank. Those are 3 units of goblins, all equipped with short bows. I believe the Battle Standard Batter, Hobgoblin, the Stinga, is located in the Night Goblin unit right in the middle, that huge horde of 40 goblins. They has the Spider Banners, that way those guys have poison attacks with their short bows. And then right behind them are the Dem Kamikaze Boys, which are 2 Doomdiver catapults. And finally, making up his right-hand deployment is the War Boys. That is another horde of 39 orc biggins. They're all giving out the biggins upgrade. They got light armor, hand weapons, and shields. They also have the standard discipline for this unit, as well as their level 4 of Shaman, who's a savage, just normal orc great shaman. He's got level 4 Lord of the Big Waaagh. I think he's also got Fencer's Blades, the 5-up ward talisman, as well as Crown of Command, so that way this unit's also stubborn as well. So this one's going to be kind of hard to break because these guys have stubborn specialty rules, and so their leadership never gets modified. And that pretty much makes up Brother Grimm's deployment on this one. Meanwhile, for my deployment on the left-hand side, I have Waaaghpokeylipz as well as Mulch. That's my Exalted Hero mounted on his War Shrine. Right behind him is Haster the King in Yellow, my Demon Prince General. And right next to them is the Dustmen, a unit of 23 Chaos Warriors of Nurgle with Hand Weapons Shield. They got full command, as well as Festus, the Leech Lord Empowered, is also located in that unit as well. And making up the center of my army is the Tallyman. That is a unit of 39 Plague Bearers of Nurgle. They got full command. Also located in that unit as well is my Herald. That is Barnabas the Scrivener. He is a Herald of Nurgle. He's also got a Battle Standard Bearer upgrade, as well as the Lesser Locus of Virulence located in that unit as well. So that way all their poison attacks are 5-up. And these guys are deploying the column formation 8 wide and 5 deep. So that way I have maximum rank values because I'm using those guys as a tar pit unit. And on the right hand side of my army, I have my 2 units of 3 Plague Drones. On the left hand side, that is the Droning Horrors. It is a unit of 3 Plague Drones of Nurgle. They have Death Heads, Hand Weapons, as well as Plague Proboscises as well. So the Rotflies have poison attacks. And then same thing on the right hand side, that's the Renation of Prague. Is 6, same loaded out. Full command, they have, Death Heads, Hand Weapons, Plague Proboscises as well. And that makes up my right hand deployment on this one. And finally, scouting up ahead for the rest of my army are the Inglorious on the left-hand side, as well as the Degenerates on the right-hand side. Those are my 2 units of 3 Nurgling bases apiece. And like I said before, these guys are going on a suicide run straight down the barrel in order to pop some Fanatics, so that way my opponent can't use them against my main battle lines. And that pretty much makes up my deployment on this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 1, and my friend Brother Grimm and I, we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so Brother Grimm gets to go first on this one. So Orcs and Goblins, turn 1. This is after the move phase, and as you can see, he just moves as quickly as he can in order to engage me across the battlefield. He doesn't march up his Goblins, he just moves them up their normal 4 inches, and by doing that, that brings his Goblin units within 8 inches of my Nurglings. Because of that, all of the Fanatics get deployed. As you can see, 1 Fanatic went through my Inglorious on the left-hand side, while 3 Fanatics went to my Degenerates on the right-hand side, and the rest of the Fanatics just kind of stuck right there in the middle of the battlefield. Not much of a big deal for my opponent though, because his Goblin units are right nearby, and whatever his Fanatics couldn't kill, he can shoot off the table with his short bows. So that part's pretty discouraging. At the same time, he also marches up both on the left-hand flank and on the right-hand flank, going right towards like a full envelopment, assaulting both my flanks. The Immortals as well as Undead Friend march up their maximum movement allowance, and same thing with the War Boys as well, setting them up for some good flank charges. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. Here's a close-up of Undead Fred as well as the Immortals getting ready to charge the left-hand flank of my army, and that's going to be really brutal because those Black Orcs are dangerous, and same thing with that Giant. And here's a close-up of the center field of the battlefield with all the Fanatics being activated from the Night Goblins. I actually got off pretty lucky on this one. I only lost 1 base of Nurglings for both sides. The Inglorious lost 1 base because of one of the Fanatics that went through, and then my other unit, the Degenerates, lost another base with the 3 Fanatics going through. Got really lucky on that part. My friend kind of flubbed his rolls on that for the most part. Killed 1 base of Nurglings and put another floating wound on the second one. So, like I said, these Nurglings are just kitted out to die, and my plan is to charge them in my next phase anyways, so that way I can get rid of those Fanatics in the middle of the battlefield, and then that way I can, move my forces in to deal with these Goblins later on. And here's a close-up of the War Boys, moving up to the right-hand side, getting ready to charge my right-hand flank. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And for the most part, my friend Brother Grimm had a pretty uneventful magic phase. He did get off Gift of the Spider God on his Ludas. That way those guys have a 5-up on their poison attacks with their short bows. But that's about it. That was the first spell he cast, and I let him get off with that one. So because of that, he got that spell. The rest of his spells he tried concentrating on or primarily on Brain Bursta, so that way, not Brain Bursta, Headbutt, so that way he can stop that spell from getting my wizard. And at the same time, it was Hand of Gork, so that way he can teleport his forces. I managed to dispel both of those ones before they cause any damage. And that pretty much makes the magic phase on this one. So with magic phase over with, we go directly to shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, it took all 3 Goblin units, the Ludas, the Backstabbers, as well as those Sneaky Gits. They open fired onto my Inglorious and wiped off my unit of Nurglings. So that part was kind of sad, but them's the breaks at the point. And at the same time, Waaaghpokeylipz Now, my character, my Exalted Hero mounted on top of his War Shrine, he got hit twice by Doom Divers, actually causing 5 wounds on that guy as well. So that was pretty devastating, to say the least. The reason why is because I only have armor saves on that character. I don't have any ward saves for him, and I do have the Dawnstone so that we can re-roll armor saves. But the problem is that the Goblins' Doom Diver attacks, they ignore all armor saves whatsoever, so it doesn't really matter. I could pass all my armor saves. It wouldn't do me any good. Now, if you're wondering why he's got got 5 wounds on him. That's because the way my friends and I play with house rules, we combine the mounts wounds with the riders for monstrous beasts and chariots and things, and we go with the highest profiles to determine damage. I know it's not exactly per rules as written for Warhammer, but it just makes sense to us, and that's the way we run. So if you're wondering why he's got 5 wounds is why he's not dead, it's because that's the reason. And then of course one of the other Doom Divers, he did cause, I think with the 3 wounds were caused by one Doom Diver, another 2 wounds were caused by the other one, and then the second one also managed to hit my Dustman, managed to kill one of my Chaos Warriors at the same time. So with the shooting phase over with, we skip combat because no one's engaged, and we go directly to bottom turn number 1 for the Legion of Chaos. Alright, so this is the bottom turn number 1 for the movement phase for the Legion of Chaos, and as you can see, I've done some dramatic movement a little bit. The first thing I did is I charged forward with my Nurglings directly into the Ludas to take out 2 more Fanatics, so that's 2 less Fanatics I gotta worry about. However, the Degenerates did get killed in the process of doing so, but that's the price of doing business. There is still 7 Fanatics I gotta worry about in the center of the battlefield, but hopefully with all the terrain pieces being in the way, they might kill themselves on the terrain pieces, or they might just go back and kill the goblins. Worst case scenario, they all come flying towards my troops, but of course, you know, there's a break when it comes to Fanatic. You just don't know where they would go. It's completely random. At the same time, I also marched forward Waaaghpokeylipz to act as a speed bump between the Immortals as well as Undead Fred to the left-hand side of my army. He's only got 1 wound left, so he's not long for this world. Hopefully, I can get off a Giver of Glory spell off before he dies, but at this point, though, I'm just using it as a speed bump because he's so low on wounds right now. At the same time, I also march flew my General, Haster the King in Yellow, to the forest on the left-hand side. You really can't see him because he's kind of covered up by the forest, but I'll zoom in there in a second. And I'm setting him up so that way he can cast magic, hopefully against Undead Friend the Loon, as well as Grimgor Ironhide, using his Lord of Death spells and I can wipe them out. I do have Purple Son of Xerxes on this guy, so if I have to, hopefully I can get that spell off and my opponent won't stop me from getting it off. At the same time, on the right hand side, I also move up the Ruination of Prague as well as the Droning Horrors in order to intercept the War Boys. Now, because these guys are Plague Drones, they have the hover ability, so they can't march. They can only move 10 inches at a time, so no biggie there. I put the Ruination of Prague on the right hand side of that forest, so that way they're at the charge arc of the War Boys, and I try to do as much as I can with my Droning Horrors, but unfortunately I'm still within line of sight being charged by the War Boys, so I still have to worry about that. But at the same time, though, if that ends up happening, no big deal. I can countercharge with my Ruination of Prague and counter in a pincer attack from both of my units. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase on this one. Here's a close-up of Haster, the King in Yellow, right behind that force, getting ready to do a flank charge against Undead Friend the Loon, or the Immortals, whatever happens to be the better target of opportunity. And here's a close-up of Haster of my Exalted Hero, Waaaghpokeylipz, as well as Mulch, acting as a speed bump. And as you see, like Dustman as well as my Tallyman just remain right where they are because they're going to fight defensively this turn. Here's a close-up of the charge that my Generals made, getting rid of some of the Fanatics in the battlefield, so that way they can kind of clear them up and not have to worry about them hitting my army. And finally, here's a close-up of my Ruination of Prague, as well as the Droning Horrors, getting ready to intercept the War Boys. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And during the magic phase, it actually went out pretty good for me. First of all, I managed to get off Giver of Glory for my Waaaghpokeylipz. So he activates 3 characters with Eye of the Gods charts, using 3d6 and taking down the lowest one, or choosing 2 of the 3 that I want in order to get results. The first one I got +1 toughness for Waaaghpokeylipz, so that part was kind of cool. And at the same time, I also managed to give +1, I think, toughness as well to Festus, so that part was pretty awesome as well. And the best part was I got Apophis off for my champion for my Dustman, and when he passed his leadership test, he became a Demon Prince. So there he is right there in the middle of the battlefield. That is a newly painted up Demon Prince that I have. It's an old Reaper mini that I've been carrying around as a boar demon, and I decided it would work really good for this army. So that is the War Pig, Waaaghpokeylipz Now, that's what I call that guy, and he's located right there, so hopefully he can cause some damage for the guys later on. At the same time, I also managed to get off Curse the Leper off on my unit of Dustman, giving them +2 toughness at the same time. And the coup de grace of all of it was I managed to take the last 4 remaining Paradise I have, and I threw in the small version of Purple Son of Xerxes, and I managed to get that spell off without miscasting, if you could believe it, and my opponent was unable to stop it. So as you can see here, it's going to fly 24 inches using the small template across the entirety of the left-hand flank of his army. It's going to pass through Undead Fred, the Immortals, as well as those Sneaky Gits as well. So let's go on and talk about exactly what ended up happening for the casualties. So unfortunately, your opponent has to take initiative tests for these guys to pass, and so because of that, all these orcs have like initiative 2. I killed Undead Fred and the Loon, so the giant's dead. I also wiped out about half the unit of the Immortals as well. Not to mention, Grimgor Ironhide also failed his roll. When he rolled for his initiative test, he rolled a 6, and that's an automatic fail. So because of that, he gets swallowed up by purple fire from the Lord of Death. And at the same time, I wiped out half the unit of the Immortals, so that part was pretty epic. And finally, I managed to kill 4 members of those sneaky gits as well. So because of that, just chewed up that left-hand flank of my enemy's deployment line. So that part was pretty epic as well, making those immortals a much manageable size for my army to deal with at this point. So with the magic phase over with, we skip, I believe we go directly to shooting phase. That's right, because I do have death heads this time. So I almost skipped the shooting phase because I'm not used to having one because I'm playing Legion of Chaos, but I do have 2 Death Head attacks that killed the orcs from the War Boys. I concentrated fire with both my Ruination of Prague as well as my Droning Horrors. Unfortunately, my unit only has Ballistic Skill 3, so not very good. And however, the attacks are pretty good though. They cost strength for D3 multiple wounds, so that part's kind of cool. But I managed to kill 2 orcs in the process when it was all said and done. So with the shooting phase over with, we skip combat because nobody's engaged, and we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins, and this is after the movement phase. And the first thing he has to do is take an animosity test. He failed with those sneaky gits, which had to declare a charge. They failed that charge, only moved up 4 inches. At the same time, though, he does declare a charge with his immortals against Waaaghpokeylipz Now. I flee as a result, and I think I only go back 5 inches is what I end up doing. So he decides to commit to the charge anyways, and he rolls his dice thinking he can catch him. But unfortunately, he rolled like a 7, I think. So because of that, he only goes up, I think, 4 inches forward. No, sorry, 5 inches forward is what he ended up doing. So he only moves up 5 inches forward for the most part. So his charge didn't do very well. He does declare a charge with the War Boys, and the War Boys do make that charge directly into the Droning Horrors, so now my Droning Horrors are now engaged in close combat, and everything else he just moves up normally. He moves up the Ludas as well as those Backstabbers, moves up their normal 4 inches, that way they're within range to fire their short bows at my Tallyman. At the same time, most of his Fanatics, 2 of them collided with the Forester in the middle of the table, 1 collided into the other 2 in a straight line and destroyed those guys right off the bat, and only 1 survived, and he moved up, I think, 10 or 11 inches towards my Tallyman. He just missed my Tallyman by half an inch, so I got really lucky on that part as well. And that pretty much makes up his move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the Immortals failing a charge against Waaaghpokeylipz Now, and there's Waaaghpokeylipz Now right there at the top, fleeing away from the Immortals because he doesn't want to die. And here's a close-up of his Night Goblins. The first group, those sneaky gits on the left-hand side, they failed a charge. They move up 4 inches, while the rest of his units, the Ludas, as well as the Backstabbers, they move their normal little allowance so that way they can shoot against my Tallyman. And that makes the movement here in the center of the battlefield. And finally, here's a close-up of the War Boys charging directly into the Droning Horrors, which is okay because my Droning Horrors can hopefully cause some damage with their Rotflies. My plan is to counter-charge with my Ruination of Prague into the right-hand flank and then hopefully catch them in a pincer attack that way. Now, I won't be able to disrupt them because I am playing skirmishers, so not much is going to happen there, but I'm just looking to kill as many guys as I possibly can. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And once again, for the magic phase, I mainly dispelled all the spells he was trying to get off. He did try to use a couple of his dice to try to get rid of the Purple Son of Xerxes, but he failed to do so. And at the same time, he only managed to get one of his spells off, which is Gift of the Spider God. So once again, the Ludas have 5 up on their poison attacks. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And as you see, photo, the Ludas as well as those sneaky gets concentrate fire onto my Tallyman. I think they managed to kill 7 of them, so that part was kind of sad. And at the same time, one of the Doomdiver catapults from the Dim Kamikaze boys managed to kill Waaaghpokeylipz Now, as well as drift over and kill another one of my Dustmen as well, so that part was kind of sad. The second one tried to fire, but it flew off way off target and wasn't able to hit anything at all. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And the combat phase is actually pretty brutal. I managed to kill 9 members of the War Boys, so that part was kind of cool. But the War Boys only, I think, managed to put 1 wound on my Rotflies. The reason why is just because of the -1 hit against with close combat with Garden of Nurgle. These guys have to hit me up on a 5-up, because normally it'd be 4-up for them to hit me, but because of the Cloud of Flies from the Garden of Nurgle, they have -1 hit against me, so they were just having a really difficult time doing that. Like I said, it was like very rare for him, and the ones I did hit, I think it was his Ogre Shaman who managed to hit me and actually cause that wound onto my demon, so that part was kind of cool. Me on the other hand, I managed to cause 9 wounds in total. Most of those attacks came from the Rotflies. I think half came from the attack from the Rotflies, and the other half came from their stomps. That's pretty much, no, sorry, 3 came from their stomps, the rest came from the Rotflies. That's what it was, and that's pretty much what happened. My Plague Bearers riding them did pretty much nothing against those guys. So obviously my friend does fail his, lose combat, but he doesn't have to worry about losing anything from his leadership for combat resolution because this unit is stubborn, and he managed to pass it no problem. So these guys are sticking it out for another turn. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins. So we go to the bottom on turn number 2 for the Legion of Chaos, and I decide to charge forward. Might as well try to take the attack to my opponent while I still can. So the first thing I do is I charge forward with Waaaghpokeylipz Now, which is my newly summoned Demon Prince. He charged directly to the right-hand side of the Immortals, freeing up their center. I then charge in my Dustman directly into the Immortals as well, and charging Haster the King Yell into the left-hand flank. So I got 3 different units going into those Immortals, which is pretty good because if anybody can crush those guys, it's definitely 2 Demon Princes. At the same time, I also charge in my Tallyman directly into the Ludus. They manage to cross that. Now I do have to pop a Fanatic in order to do that. I lose 3 more Dustmen, but you know, it's well worth the price because I can't break. So I charge forward directly into the Ludus as well. My plan is to hopefully beat those guys in close combat, then overrun them, and then I can take out those other 2 units of Goblins at my leisure. And at the same time, on the right hand side, I do charge in the Ruination of Prague. They go into the right hand flank of the War Boys, and that pretty much makes up my deployment on this one. I'm my movement phase on this one. Alright, so here's a close-up of Haster the King in yellow, Waaaghpokeylipz Now, as well as my, Dustman charged directly into the Immortals. So I'm looking forward to destroying these Black Orcs once for all. And here's a close-up of the Tallyman charging directly into the Ludus as well. So I'm looking forward to that combat and breaking these Goblins, hopefully. And finally, here's a close-up of the Ruination of Prague, as well as the Droning Horrors, now getting the War Boys into a pincer attack. And for my magic phase, it was supremely disappointing. I rolled double 1s and snake eyes on that part, so because of that, I do suffer any double losses from demonic instability from my army due to the Reign of Chaos table. However, because Nurgle is in Ascendance, I don't really have to worry about it, so it kind of counts out the rules. So I don't get a magic phase. And the worst part is when I rolled for my magical vortex for my Purple Son of Xerxes, I rolled a miscast, a misfire. So because of that, it goes away from the battlefield, doesn't cause any damage either. So we skip shooting and we go straight to the combat phase, and as you can see, it ended up being an absolute slaughter over here between the Immortals as well as my different units. Haster the King in yellow, that guy managed to kill 9 of the Immortals just by himself, between his normal close combat attacks as well as his Thunder Stomp. At the same time, Waaaghpokeylipz Now, I think he managed to kill 7 or 8 of those guys just by himself as well. Once again, just stomping them with close combat attacks as well as his Thunder attacks, this Thunder Stomp as well. So that part was extremely brutal. Too. And then my Dustman, I think, managed to kill 2 of them as well as what ended up happening. I did suffer, I think, 2 wounds to Waaaghpokeylipz Now, my newly summoned Demon Prince, but that only leaves 4 of these Black Orcs left. So because of that, obviously they have to pick a pack test, they have to roll Snake Eyes, and my friend Brother Grimm fails that test. They run back 8 inches, and I run for 10, so because I overrun them with Waaaghpokeylipz Now, I managed to kill every single one of those Black Orcs from the Immortals, and thus killing that unit for good. And that's awesome for me, because it also nets me a bunch of juicy points. And as you see, Waaaghpokeylipz Now is carrying 2 wounds at the same time. I then do a combat reform with my Dustman, as well as Haster the King in yellow, so that way they can set up flank charges against those sneaky gits on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, the close combat between the Dustmen as well as the Ludus, I do manage to lose 5 of my Dustmen. However, I do manage to kill, I think, 12 of theirs. So combined with my charge and my break bonus, my battle standard bearer, and everything else in between, I beat this combat by a landslide. So because of that, my friend Brother Grimm has to take a break test. If I remember correctly, I think he had to roll under a 4 in order to do this. But it really didn't matter because he did fail his break test and he had to run. I think he ran back 5 or 6 inches and I ran forward 7 or 8 inches. So because of that, I overrun that unit and destroy that unit of Ludus at the same time, busting the center of my friend's battlefield. So the only thing that's left down the center are the sneaky gets on the left-hand side, as well as some backstabbers on the right-hand side. And once again, close combat between the Ruination of Prague as well as the Droning Horrors against the War Boys was pretty brutal. In the end, I did manage to kill, looks like, let's see here, 11. Managed to kill 11 orcs in the process of doing that. They did manage to kill one of my plague drones as well as put a floating wound on another one, but needless to say, I win combat no problem. And even if I did lose combat, I am unbreakable, so I'm not going anywhere. At the same time, he's not going anywhere either because he still has his stubborn rules, so he stands his ground. He does do a combat reform afterwards to put his unit into a column formation of 20 deep, so that way he gets rank bonuses, but I forgot to take a picture of it at the end of the combat phase. I do apologize for that. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Orcs and Goblins, and as you can see, not much movement really takes place. He does adjust his turn a little bit on the left-hand side for his sneaky gets as well as them backstabbers. He does so that way they can open fire onto my units as they come charge across the battlefield, at the same time as War Boys are still engaged in close combat at the top of the table. And that pretty much makes up his move phase for this one. We skip magic phase because I was able to dispel everything, go straight to the shooting phase, and with the Doom Diary Catapults does open up onto my unit of Dustmen, and does manage to kill 2 more of my Dustmen in the process of doing that, killing my 2 Chaos Warriors. So that part was kind of sad for me. However, when his second Kamikaze boy tries to fire off his Doom Diver Catapult, able to misfire once because that thing just explodes and gets destroyed right there in the middle of the battlefield. So that part was kind of cool as well. And as crazy as it may sound, that second Kamikaze boy actually passes panic test because that he is still going. So with the shooting phase over with, they go directly to the combat phase. And needless to say, my Ruination of Prague as well as my Droning Horrors did manage to finish off those Orcs. The Orcs did manage to kill another one of my Plague Drones from the Droning Horrors, so that part was kind of sad. But at the same time, though, I managed to kill those Orcs to the last man. So because that unit destroyed, as you can see, I do a combat reform real quick with the Ruination of Prague and the one remaining Plague Drone I have left from the Droning Horrors, and they get ready to set up for a flank charge on the right-hand side. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to Bonoturmer 3 for the Legion of Chaos. And as you see this photo, I decided to charge directly in and try to finish off this unit. So the first thing I do is I charge it with the Dustman, manage to land directly into those sneaky gits. I also charge in both my Ruination of Prague as well as my Droning Horrors, who make a great charge directly into them backstabbers. As for my Dustman, Battalion Man, I keep charging the 4 directly to the second Doom Diver Catapult and finish that off. And then I march fly both Hatch of the King in Yellow as well as Waaaghpokeylipz Now right towards the middle of the battlefield, so that way they can start making some rear charges against those 2 units of Goblins. And that pretty much makes up the move phase on this one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us regularly to end the game, because at this point my friend Brother Grim just kind of calls it because he realizes Goblins are not going to survive what's coming his way. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, there's a photo of the battlefield. Pretty much all the Orcs and Goblins are pretty much dead, except for 2 units of Night Goblins and 1 Doom Diver Catapult. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the After Action Report, because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, now it's time for the After Action Report. This is part of the battle report. We talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action Report for the Golden Age Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report number 54, and it being a victory for yours truly. So when it comes to my losses, I lost Waaaghpokeylipz, Slimex, and Mulch, the Inglorious, as well as the Degenerates. Brother Grim lost Grimgor, Ironhide, the Incarnate Beast, Ruga the Stunty Flayer, Hobgrow the Stinga, the Shrinking Shroomhead, the Ludas, the Warboys, the Immortals, Undead Fred and the Loon, and 1 Kamikaze Boy. In the end, attacking the flanks really paid off for me in this battle report, just because that was where the focus of most of his killing power is located at. So by doing that, I was able to take apart his 2 most hard-hitting units. Also, using Purple Sun against Undead Friend of the Loon as well as the Immortals really paid off, because it killed the Giant, it killed Grimgor Ironhide, and nearly half of the Immortals as well, which made that left-hand flank extremely weak. Having 2 Demon Princes in the army, especially one summoned by Giver of Glory, is just too awesome. When combined with my Dustmen and they attacked against the Immortals, they just atomized those Black Orcs like it was nobody's business. And I'm really starting to fall in love with the Plague Drones. I'm actually, at first I was kind of turned off by them, but now that I'm playing with these guys and see what they can do, there's really not much these guys can't do. They're really good for tarp hitting, they're good for shooting when you can't hit, and also wound and cause some defensive damage that way. They can outmaneuver most enemy forces, and they're also pretty good in close combat. So I'm pretty impressed with these guys, and I'm starting to think I'll be keeping these guys around on my army list from now on. Sacrificing the Nurglings to pop the Fanatics also helped on this one as well, just because it allowed me to assault his center line with my Tallyman and break his Goblin units and able to destroy them that way, so that part was kind of fun. And in the end, this was an awesome game against a great opponent, and I'm looking forward to the rematch against the Orcs and Goblins once again. That's good to do for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest news about our hobby. That's good to do for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.